Bam! What's up with the squad? It's your favorite auntie with Uncle Tendencies, and welcome to another Cess Talk Sports BY's PoliSports Tea Time, where we steep the truth slow and serve it extra hot. Not today? Yeah, we going there. We talking about what's really been brewing beneath the surface for a minute now. The media and public protection of Caitlin Clark versus the constant, relentless attacks on Angel Reese, and how this reveals the deep-rooted realities about race, gender, and power in women's basketball. Let's be real. Caitlin Clark, Hooper, no argument there. But what we ain't gonna do is ignore the way she's been wrapped in bubble wrap by the media, coddled by the public, and handed narrative control like she's got final edit rights. Meanwhile, Angel, she getting dragged for breathing too loud. This ain't just about highlights and box scores. This is about who gets protected and who gets painted as the villain. Angel Reese has been called everything from ghetto to too emotional, classless, a distraction for doing less than what Caitlyn gets cheered for. Why? Because Angel walks in black confidence, dripping in authenticity, and unbothered by public opinion. And that is what America still don't know how to handle. So here's the question for today's tea. Why is the media, and let's call it out, even some black men, so quick to protect Caitlin Clark from black women like Angel Reese? Why is grace always up for grabs when it comes to black women? And more importantly, why are we the only ones expected to be humble, quiet, and grateful for the bare minimum? Let's not waste another second. Pull up a chair, sit slow, and let's bring in my sister, the truth teller herself, Political Lil, to help us break this all the way down. Because this ain't just basketball. It's a battle over narrative, power, and who gets to be enough just as they are. Let's talk about it.
Thank you, Cess. This is a conversation that has to be had. And I'm glad we're having it because the dynamics at play, they run deep. All the way back to the plantation, honestly. White womanhood has always been positioned as something to be protected at all costs, often at the direct expense of black people. And now we're seeing it play out again on the basketball court. Caitlin Clark is being painted as the good girl, the face of the league, even when she shows poor sportsmanship. And when Angel, who simply responds or competes with the same fire, does anything, she's suddenly attacking Caitlin. We're watching white femininity being used as a kind of shield, a protective status that deflects criticism, excuses behavior, and invites sympathy. It's the same logic that got Emmett Till murdered. And now in a new form, it's showing up in a way the sports media, some fans, and even powerful men in the culture jump in to defend Caitlin Clark, not because she's right, but because she represents something, purity, marketability, and safety for whiteness. Meanwhile, black women like Angel Reese, who is intelligent, articulate, and competitive, don't get that luxury. They're expected to shrink themselves. If they speak up, they're disrespectful. If they show emotion, they're angry. If they show swag, oh, they're ghetto. And I want folks to understand, this isn't just about Reese and Clark. This is about what America values and what it fears. And more often than not, that fear is confident, unapologetic black women. So today we're going to unpack all of this, the history, the media framing, the role of black men, and the uncomfortable truth about how society uses white womanhood as a weapon, and why black womanhood is still left undefended. Buckle up, because the tea is bold and the tweets ain't sweet.
All right. Let's run it back real quick. Because what we're witnessing right now ain't new. It's just wearing a Nike jersey and sitting courtside. See, this country been on game like this from the start. White womanhood has always been framed as sacred, fragile, and untouchable. That image didn't just shape how folks acted at Sunday brunch. It shaped laws, policy, and the entire blueprint of white supremacy. Let's keep it all the way real. Slavery wasn't just about free black labor. It was also upheld by the myth of the delicate white woman, the one who needed to be protected from the presence, power, and personhood of black folks. That protection, that wasn't innocent. It was weaponized. A single accusation from a white woman, true or false, could have a black man lynched. Whole mobs would form behind white tears. Racist propaganda was built on that myth. And guess what, fam? That blueprint never got burned. It just got rebranded. Welcome to the age of Karen culture, where a single shaky voice or fake tear can still activate the full weight of a system. And Caitlin Clark, she doesn't even have to cry. Her defenders stay on go for her. She's the latest embodiment of that protected white femininity, whether she's asked for it or not. Meanwhile, Angel Reese, whole different story. Angel doesn't get protection. She gets punishment. She gets labeled ghetto, aggressive, too much. Not because she's actually doing anything wild, but because she dares to exist in full Black excellence, loud, proud, and unapologetically herself. Let's go back to what Brother Malcolm said, and it still hits in 2025. The most disrespected person in America is the Black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the Black woman. The most neglected person in America is the Black woman. And facts. Don't that quote play out in real time when Angel gets crucified for what her white counterpart gets celebrated for? Because let's call it, folks don't see Angel as needing protection. They see her as a problem, a threat, a disruptor. And that right there, that's where the real danger lies. Because what we're dealing with now is that same old playbook, just new packaging. The same racist and sexist tropes still got Black women boxed in. The Mammy, the Jezebel, the Sapphire, all that. Those caricatures still influence how people perceive Black women, no matter how many doubles they drop. So now we're about to peel back that layer. Political ill. Go ahead and lift that veil. Du Bois was talking about. Let's dig into how these narratives got built and why they still haunt us, even in the so-called progressive world of women's sports.
Yes, ma'am, Cess. See, we're living behind what W.E.B. Du Bois called the veil. He described it in The Soul of Black Folks, a kind of invisible barrier that separates Black people from full visibility and humanity in American society. Du Bois said that Black folks live with a double consciousness, always seeing themselves through their own eyes and through the eyes of a white-dominated society. Now think about how that plays out for Black women. When Angel Reese steps on the court, she's not just a basketball player. She's navigating that double consciousness. She knows the world is watching her through the veil, judging her every move, not just as an athlete, but as a Black woman, and not giving her the grace and protection afforded to someone like Caitlin Clark. Angel is expected to be strong, resilient, unbothered. That's the strong Black woman myth. But what happens when she needs protection? When she's getting death threats? When she's being called racist slurs online? Silence. Black women don't get to be victims in the public imagination. We're too loud, too masculine, too independent. All of this is rooted in the old stereotypes of the Sapphire, the angry Black woman who needs to be put in her place, or the Jezebel, the hypersexual figure who supposedly invites mistreatment. And let's not forget the Mammy, nurturing, loyal, but only valuable when serving others. These tropes strip Black women of their humanity, their vulnerability, and yes, their right to be protected. And that's why you'll hear people say things like, Angel needs to calm down, or she's ruining the game, when all she's doing is standing in her power. She's not just being penalized for her action, she's being punished for her identity. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark gets to be competitive and cocky, and that's good for the game. See, that's the veil. That's the protection divided. And we got to keep calling it out.
Now let's bring this whole conversation right into the heart of today's game, the WNBA. Because, fam, this ain't just some dusty chapter out of a history book. These old stereotypes, they're alive, active, and playing in prime time. Let's talk about Caitlin Clark, the media darling, the one the system keeps trying to hand the keys to the whole league. And before y'all start hollering, yes, I see the skill. She's a sniper, a generational shooter. But what's happening around her, that's bigger than buckets. This is about narrative, about power, about whiteness and protection. They frame Caitlin like she's heaven sent, the humble girl from Iowa, just here to save the game with a smile and a three-point bomb. You got analysts calling her a breath of fresh air, like women weren't hooping at an elite level long before she stepped foot on the WNBA court. Like the WNBA needed saving, and she just pulled up in the cape. And yet when Caitlin throws an elbow, crickets. When she talks spicy or steps into drama, the convo instantly shifts to, we need to protect her. Protect her from what? From the physicality of the pros, from competition, from the culture she willingly stepped into, a league built by and for women who've been fighting to be seen, heard, and respected. And this is where it gets real familiar. We start hearing all that coded language. She's classy. She plays the right way. She brings integrity to the game. That's not just sports commentary. That's moral hierarchy. That's dog whistle talk, positioning her as pure and elevated, while subtly, and sometimes not so subtly, implying that Black players are less than, too loud, too emotional, too aggressive, too Black. That's not just microaggressions. That's a full-blown narrative engine running 24/7 to paint Caitlin as the gold standard and everybody else as the problem. Let's be clear, fam. This ain't about one player. This is about a system that always finds a way to frame black excellence as a threat and white comfort as the goal. So as we sit here in 2025, watching the league evolve in real time, ask yourself, who gets to be the face and who gets framed as the enemy just for being themselves?
And right on the other side of the same coin, you got Angel Reese, young, talented, confident, and the opposite of what they see, what they want to see representing the league. Let's be real. Angel ain't done anything that Caitlin hasn't done, but the difference is how the media frames it. When Angel points at her ring finger or flexes after a big play, she's ghetto, unsportsmanlike, a bad role model. Those ain't just criticisms. Those are racialized dog whistles. Let's talk about language. When you hear people calling Angel loud, masculine, or a thug, they're not talking about her game. They're talking about her blackness, her womanhood, and how those two things don't align with their ideal of what a female athlete should look and act like. She wears lashes, talk her talk, and rocks designer fits. And for that, she gets more scrutiny than players with criminal records or actually dirty plays on the court. This is how whiteness shields not just Caitlin, but the image she represents. And it's how blackness gets punished, not just through fouls or flagrant calls, but through narrative violence. Angel becomes the villain even when she's following the same playbook. She walks into a room and brings swagger, and the room says, how dare she? She's been called everything but a child of God by people who can't stand seeing a black woman unapologetically in her own space. And you know what? It's not just about Angel. It's about what happens when any black woman dares to center herself, shine too bright, or refuse to shrink. The backlash is about control. It's about keeping whiteness in the spotlight while telling black women, be grateful you're here and stay in your place. But baby, Angel already left that place, and now they don't know what to do.
Now let's talk about the part that cuts the deepest, fam. The silence. Or worse, the side switching. Yeah, I'm talking about some of our own brothers. Because while Angel Reese is out here getting dragged by her lashes for being herself, oh, let me back up. I'm talking about some of our own brothers and sisters, Gail. Because while Angel Reese is out here getting dragged by her lashes for being herself, where are the voices from the NBA? The rappers, the actors, the same black men and women who post protect black women on Instagram, but be real quiet when it's time to actually stand on that in public. See, it's crickets. And you already know we got to ask the hard question, why? A lot of this goes back to something we don't talk about enough, internalized white supremacy. When you grow up in a system that teaches you over and over again that white women are the standard, the ideal, the delicate, the deserving, that programming runs deep. And for some black men, it becomes a blueprint for how they move in the world. Defending whiteness becomes a shortcut to acceptance, to status, to visibility, to power. So when Caitlin Clark shows up, soft-spoken, ponytail, branded as humble, she's easy to rally around. But when Angel Reese pulls up, confident, iced out, standing 10 toes in her truth, suddenly she's too much. She's bringing it on herself. She needs to be humble. Nah, that ain't about right or wrong. That's about who society trained you to protect. It's about proximity to whiteness being used like social currency. And for some of these brothers, it's like, if I show up for her, maybe they'll see me as different too. But here's the problem with that. Every time you reach for that validation from whiteness, you do it at the expense of black women. You leave us hanging. No protection, no public love, no real advocacy, just vibes and reposted quotes on social media. Meanwhile, black women like Angel still out here having to hold it down alone. Again, fighting off hate and carrying the culture on our backs. So we got to say it loud and clear. You can't claim to love us in private and leave us unprotected in public. Let's be better and let's talk about it. All of it.
Exactly. And what we're talking about here, it has a name. It's called intersectionality. That's the unique kind of hatred that black women face, both because of their race and their gender. It's not just racism. It's not just sexism. It's both. Wrapped up in a system that tells the world black women are too loud, too angry, too emotional, and too strong to need help. And this is where a lot of our black brothers are failing us. Many of them don't challenge the systems that hurt black women. Because truth be told, some of them benefit from it. Look at the music industries, sports media, entertainment. You see black women disrespected, hypersexualized, or silenced. And you rarely see black men checking that. Sometimes they're quiet. Other times they're co-signing on it. Take the way Angel gets clowned on Twitter. Where's the pushback from the same men who swear they want a real one? Why is it easier for them to defend a white woman they don't know than a black sister who's standing in the fire every day? That's not love. That's abandonment. And it's a pattern we've seen far too long. From Billie Holiday to Megan Thee Stallion and now Angel Reese. And don't forget the myth of the strong black woman. It sounds like a compliment, but it's a trap. Because if we were always expected to be strong, then people stop thinking we need care. They stop believing we can hurt. The world looks at us like we could take anything. So when Angel is crying or Serena is angry or when Simone Biles steps back to protect her mental health, people say they're being dramatic. But when white women cry, the world rushes in to hold them. That's not strength, that's neglect, disguised as praise.
Let's be real, fam. Being unprotected ain't just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. It drains you, it costs you. And not just in the comment section, not just in the headlines. We're talking mental health, emotional exhaustion, and whole careers being chipped away piece by piece just because a black woman had the nerve to be brilliant, confident, and unapologetically herself. Let's go back to Angel Reese. She's 23. 23. And she's already had to defend her character, her competitiveness, and her right to exist in peace more than some athletes ever will. She wins, it's a problem. She talks her talk, it's a scandal. She shows up in full self, she's suddenly a villain. That's not just scrutiny, that's psychological warfare. When the world tells you you're too loud, too flashy, too everything, it gets in your head. You either start shrinking to make people be comfortable, or you keep shining and they call you arrogant. Either way, the weight is real. And this ain't just about Angel. Think about my Malaysia Wiley, still a teenager, but folks already dissecting her game like she ain't still learning and growing. Meanwhile, her white counterparts get called rising stars and future faces of the league. Lay gets labeled inconsistent. Why? Or Dawn Staley, one of the greatest to ever do it. Championships, Olympic medals, generational impact. But every time she speaks the truth, folks rush to call her emotional, biased, or too much. Like she didn't build a dynasty with receipts longer than a CBS tape. Then there's Simone Biles, the GOAT. Took a step back at the Olympics to protect her mental health, and they came for her like she owed them her pain. Naomi Osaka did the same. Serena Williams spent her whole career getting policed for her power, her body, her joy. Every one of these women had to make an impossible choice: protect their peace or keep chasing the public approval that was never really meant for them in the first place. That's not a fair choice. That's not balance. That's the cost of being unprotected, and black women pay it over and over again. And yet, they still show up, still win, still lead, still love the game. That's strength. That's power. That's why we talk about it on Cess Talk Sports and the Be Wise PoliSports Tea Time podcast. Because if we don't name it, they gonna act like it ain't real. And fam, we know it's real.
Right. And that's the danger of this system. When black women athletes speak up or act out to protect themselves, they're punished by fans, media, even their own peers. They lose endorsements. They get benched. They get labeled as difficult. And that sticks with them. It limits opportunities, not just on the court, but long after their playing days are gone. Meanwhile, white athletes are allowed to be complex. They can be fiery. They can mess up and get forgiveness. But black women, they're rarely afforded that kind of grace. So the cost becomes cumulative, not just emotional burnout, but career damage. And let's not act like black girls coming up in these sports aren't watching. They're seeing how Angel gets treated. They're seeing how silence follows them and how support flows to others. That kind of message creates fear, self-doubt, and a sense that they're alone. And no young black girl with a dream should ever feel like she has to earn her protection.
Let's bring it back to the court, where this double standard don't just live, it thrives under the national spotlight. Let's talk about Game 3 of the 2024 WNBA season. Chicago Sky versus Indiana Fever. Kennedy Carter delivers a hard body check to Caitlin Clark. No wind-up, no swing, just a physical play. The kind that happens in every pro league every day. No whistle was even blown at the time. But what happened next? That moment went viral. And suddenly the sports world was foaming at the mouth. Carter got called dirty, jealous, a thug. Angel Reese, who wasn't even involved in the play, got dragged just for dapping her teammate up after the bucket. Meanwhile, when Caitlin Clark had her own moments, like shoving off a defender after a whistle or delivering a hip check during transition, the convo magically shifted. Suddenly she's just competitive. She's just adjusted to physicality. She's got that edge. See how quick the tone changes? Two players showing physicality. One gets branded dangerous, the other a future face of the league. That ain't just a double standard. That's a racially coded system of judgment in real time. Let's take it back even further to the college stage. 2023 National Championship. Angel Reese does the "you can't see me" taunt and points her ring finger, and the whole country loses its mind. Classless, unsportsmanlike, ghetto. But days before, Caitlin had done the exact same gesture to another player and got praised for being a dog, competitive, cold-blooded. Even though she didn't stand on 10 toes and say that's what she did, she tried to play it off like, I did that to my trainer. See, so we got to ask, what makes the same behavior inspiring for one player and intolerable for another? Let me answer that for y'all. Race, proximity to whiteness, media protection. And the same tired narrative that black women can't just be passionate. We always got to be a problem. This ain't about hating on Caitlin Clark. She hoops, and she belongs. But what we're not going to do is ignore how this machine moves when black women enter the same space with the same energy and get punished for it. On Cess Talk Sports and the BY PoliSports Tea Time podcast, we don't just watch the game. We watch how the game is covered. And when it ain't adding up, we're going to talk about it loud. Because truthfully, Angel didn't foul the game. The game fouled her.
Off the court, it gets even louder. You've got conservative white male commentator, folks like Jason Whitlock and Clay Travis, saying Caitlin Clark is being bullied or targeted by jealous black women. You've got podcast bros literally inventing victimhood for Clark, saying things like they're trying to run her out the league and she's too classy for this, all because she's being guarded tough by elite black athletes. I mean, stop it. Meanwhile, the moment Angel Reese speaks up, posts online, or responds to critics, she gets hit with the, she making it about race. She's obsessed with Clark, or she's hurting her brand. That kind of public policing of black women's tone, posture, existence, it's exhausting and it's dangerous. And look at the language in the headline. Clark responds to brutal foul versus Reese caught in controversy again. The way they write it, tell you who they think the victim is before the story even starts. It's like they hand Caitlin Clark a halo and hand Angel Reese a target.
And let's talk money. Let's talk power. Caitlin Clark has already been handed the title face of the league. Gatorade, State Farm, Nike, everybody's lining up to throw millions at her. And she's barely stepped into her second season. Is she talented? Absolutely. But talent alone doesn't explain that level of investment. That's about image and the comfort that whiteness brings to brands and mainstream fans. Now compare that to Angel Reese, who literally won a national championship, broke records, packed arenas, and still gets treated like a PR problem. Her confidence gets weaponized. Her style, whether it's lashes, edges, or designer fits, gets mocked as unprofessional or doing too much. And yet she's one of the most marketable athletes we've seen in years. Her charisma is unmatched. Her numbers speak loud. But the culture doesn't reward her for being authentically black. It punishes her. It makes her earn every inch of support that was handed to Clark before she even earned it.
And let's be honest, this goes beyond basketball. This is America choosing who gets to be the hero and who gets to be the threat. Caitlin Clark isn't just being promoted. She's being protected by a whole apparatus. And Angel Reese isn't just being critiqued. She's being disciplined publicly for not playing the role that makes white folks comfortable. It is the veil W.E.B. Du Bois talked about in The Soul of Black Folks. The double consciousness black folks and especially black women carry. The constant awareness of how you're seen, how you're judged, and how much of your truth you have to swallow just to survive in spaces that weren't built for you. Angel is living that in real time. She knows she's being watched differently. She knows that grace and empathy don't flow to her the way it does to Clark. And still she rises. Still she plays. Still she shows up, lashes on, chin up, unapologetic.
Now let's zoom out for a second, because this ain't just about Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark. This is a mirror. What we're witnessing ain't new. It's America doing what America does, running the same tired play when it comes to race, gender, and power. Angel and Caitlin, they're just the latest players caught in the crosshairs of a system that's been choosing sides long before the shot clock started. Let's talk facts. In this country, white womanhood has always been positioned as something fragile, sacred, soft, in need of saving. That's been the blueprint from the plantation to the press conference. Meanwhile, black womanhood, we've been handed the mop and the megaphone, expected to clean up everybody's mess, speak up for everybody's rights, and still smile through the slander. White tears get compassion, black pain gets questioned. White anger is strategy, black anger too emotional, too aggressive, too much. You see it in politics, you see it in corporate America, and now you see it courtside under arena lights with national coverage. And let's not act like the media isn't the main character in this narrative game. The way that these stories get told, the camera angles, the headlines, the post game interview setups, the social media clips, they're not just entertainment, they're instructions. They tell the world who to root for and who to fear, who gets marketed and who gets muted. So when the WNBA rolls out this full court press to frame Caitlin Clark as the savior of women's basketball while barely spotlighting the black women who built this league brick by brick, that's not a rollout. That's not growing the game. That's erasure. Because let's keep it real. Without Cheryl Swoops, Lisa Leslie, Tamika Catchings, Candace Parker, Asia Wilson, there is no WNBA stage for Caitlin Clark to walk on. So no, we're not anti-Caitlin, we're anti-amnesia. This platform was carved out by women who had to fight for visibility, equity, and basic respect. So if you're telling the story of women's basketball, tell the whole story. Because if your narrative only works when black women get sidelined, that's not elevation, that's exploitation. And here, we don't let that slide. We call it out, loud, clear, unapologetic. Because the truth, that's our favorite teammate.
And these stories aren't just stories, they're systems. What we're seeing is institutional bias working in real time. The WNBA, ESPN, corporate sponsors, they know exactly what image they want to sell. And too often that image comes with soft edges and white skin. That's not by accident. That's business rooted in bias. This moment is a microcosm, like you said, Cess. And it's about more than basketball. This is about who gets humanized, who gets protected, who gets branded as marketable versus who gets marketed as a threat. It's about how white supremacy and patriarchy still shapes what leadership, beauty, and sportsmanship look like to the public imagination. And let's be real, it's also about fragility of whiteness and the resilience of black women. Because the fact that this conversation even needs to be had in 2025 proves that. The fact that black women still have to fight for recognition, for grace, for protection, even when they excel, that tells us everything about where we are and how far we still have to go. But here's what they didn't count on: the power of truth tellers, disruptors, and platforms like this one. We're naming it, we're unpacking it, and we're not letting the story stop at the surface.
Let's get into something real uncomfortable and real necessary. The idea that white women need to be protected at all costs. Because on the surface, it sounds noble, right? Who wouldn't want to protect women? But when you really dig into it historically, politically, what we're looking at is a deeply racialized gender ideology rooted in white supremacy. Since slavery, the fragile white woman myth has been used to justify all kinds of violence, particularly against black men and boys, from Emmett Till to the Scottsboro Boys, to the everyday Karens of today. White womanhood has been weaponized. It's been framed as an innocent, endangered, and always in need of rescue. But here's the catch: that rescue has often meant harm, not even death for black folks. It's a power play disguised as protection. And while these false narratives have protected white femininity, they've left black women exposed. When's the last time we saw the same kind of national outcry to protect the black woman from harm? Whether it be harassment, violence, or even death. The system doesn't move with the urgency for us because we're not seen as victims. We're seen as too strong, too angry, too much.
And that's the trick. The real trick behind the protection narrative is not about safety. It's about control. It's about shaping society so that white women can wield victimhood when it benefits them, while black women are denied vulnerability altogether. It's not just that white women are protected, it's that protection becomes a kind of shield for white supremacy. W.E.B. Du Bois wrote about this in The Soul of Black Folks, the veil that separates black folks from full humanity in the eyes of white society. Black women in particular live under a double veil, seen neither as fully a woman nor fully human in American imagination. So when someone like Caitlin Clark is protected, it's not just about her being an athlete, it's about her upholding an entire racial and gender hierarchy. We've seen this over and over. When white women call the police on black folks for existing, their fear is believed without question. When black women speak out, we're being told we're starting trouble, making it about race or being aggressive. That's not protection. That's propaganda. That's manipulation of the public lens, and it's dangerous. So when we critique this obsession with protecting white women, we're not saying women don't deserve safety. We're saying that true protection means dismantling the system that only protects some while exposing others to harm. If we want justice, we need to interrogate the myths that keep injustice alive.
So let's bring it all the way home to right now. Because what we've been discussing isn't just historical. It's happening right now in women's sports. What we're seeing with the rise of Caitlin Clark and the treatment of Angel Reese is not just a media narrative. It's a modern manifestation of a much older, the weaponization of white womanhood. When people say protect Caitlin Clark, we have to ask, protect her from what exactly? She's not a physical danger. She's playing the same game on the same court with the same rules. But her whiteness and femininity are being framed as inherently delicate. And when that gets coded into national conversation, it becomes policy. It becomes privilege. It becomes protection. And it comes at a cost to a black woman. Let's not pretend we don't recognize the pattern. From Emmett Till to Barbecue Becky to the viral Karen memes, we've seen how some white women have weaponized their proximity to power by calling the police or inciting violence, knowing that their fear will be believed and their word prioritized. That's not safety. That's strategic manipulation of systems that already lean in your favor.
Exactly. And let's not forget, this is deeply rooted in American ideology. In the antebellum South, this myth is chivalry, that white men must protect the virtue of white women. And that was used to justify racial terror. It upheld white male dominance, positioned white women as sacred and untouchable, and left every other woman vulnerable. This protection didn't extend to the black woman. It didn't always apply to poor white women. It was a class and race-based tool of control. Now, fast forward to the WNBA. If this league continues to ignore the disproportionate scrutiny, coded language, and hostile environments that black women athletes face, we could be looking at more than just bad press. We could be looking at a potential workplace discrimination lawsuit. Because if you're creating an environment where only some women are protected, promoted, and treated with dignity, and others are left to fend for themselves amid racial abuse, that's not just unethical, that's legally actionable. The court is their job. If the workplace becomes hostile through media bias, racist fan behavior, or differential treatment in sponsorship and coverage, the WNBA could face serious legal and reputational consequences because no other player should have to endure a double standard just to go to work. And let's not forget the intersectionality here. Focusing on only white women breakthrough in sports spaces while ignoring that black women have already built and endured, that's a form of erasure. That's not progress. That's selective storytelling. And it's time we name it.
So now we've come full circle. We've traveled from the historic politics of protection rooted in slavery, racial terror, gender myths, to the current media storm swirling around Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. We peel back the layers of race, gender, media bias, workplace injustice, and even silence from within our own community. What's clear is this moment isn't just about basketball. It's about who gets to be seen as worthy of empathy, dignity, and protection, and who gets discarded, misunderstood, or vilified for simply showing up in their fullness. Let's be clear, this isn't about hating Caitlin Clark. This is about challenging the system that elevates her while punishing Angel Reese and so many others for being unapologetically black, bold, and brilliant. Because when we say protect black women, it's not a slogan, it's a mandate, a necessity, a call to action that we can't afford to ignore. Not in media, not in sports, not in society.
And let's talk about what it looks like for black men. Speak up, not just when it's easy, but when it counts. When you see black women being disrespected, erased, or attacked, say something, because silence is complicity. And protection without accountability, that isn't protection at all. For fans and consumers, examine the narratives you're buying into. Ask why certain athletes are marketed as wholesome heroes and others as villains for doing the exact same thing. Your dollars, clicks, and voices shape these dynamics. For the WNBA media outlets and corporate sponsors, it's time to course correct. This league was built by black women, and to sideline them in favor of white marketability is both historically dishonest and ethically bankrupt. Protect all your players, not just the ones that fit the whitewash mold of femininity. And for our white allies, Don't confuse protection with patronization. Don't center your own fragility in conversations about harm. Listen, learn, speak truth to power, not for us, but with us, for all of us. Let's start interrogating how these dynamics play out, not just in sports, but in the classroom, courtroom, boardrooms, daily life. The playing field is never level until we name the unevenness and actively fight for the change.
Like Malcolm X said, and let it echo here, the most disrespected person in America is the black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the black woman. The most neglected person in America is the black woman. We've got the receipts, we've got the history, we've got the lived experience. Now let's build the culture and the coalitions to ensure the next generation of black women in sports don't just survive the game, they thrive in it. So now you see it. This ain't just about basketball. This is America. This is about power, protection, and perception, and how black women, even when dominant, are still fighting for the most basic respect. We've broken it down from the coded media praise of Caitlin Clark to the targeted takedown of Angel Reese. We've talked internalized supremacy, strong black women myths, and the weaponization of white womanhood. Let me make it plain. The system ain't broken. It's functioning exactly how it was designed. It's up to us as part of the women's basketball community to recognize it and call out this type of injustice. Because this ain't just talk. We build community. We ask the hard questions. We tear down the lies and we tell the real stories. This is where we speak truth to the power of fans, media, and the institutions that shape the sports we love. Every week we drop a new recorded episode where we make our claim, provide the evidence, and then connect the dots. And then we go live with you, the audience, the real ones, to have the conversation. Because over here we understand. Sports are never just about the games we play. They're about the stories we tell. And here, we're going to tell it like it is. So now I'm calling you to do something. Subscribe, comment, like, and tell 10 of your friends about this channel, this movement, this voice, and advocacy for women's basketball. This is Cess, your favorite auntie with Uncle Tendencies and Political Ill from Cess Talk Sports and the BY's PoliSports Tea Time. Let's just say next week we got some things to say about the politics of control in women's basketball. Y'all stay tuned. Talk soon. We out.